Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. We're here with another installment of Networking While Social Distancing, and I have the honor to be here with Seth Kamen. I'm going to turn it over to him to introduce himself. Seth, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, personally and professionally?
Sure, thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Seth Kamen. I currently serve as the Assistant Vice President for Undergraduate Recruitment and Strategy at the University of Baltimore, which is a public institution down in the heart of the Baltimore area. I have been at UB for about a year and a half now, although I did work at UB back in 2005 to 2011 in a role that was very similar, working primarily with the community colleges and with transfer students to get them a seamless transfer from the community colleges, primarily in the state of Maryland, to the University of Baltimore. But I do have more than 20 years of experience in higher ed working with non-traditional students, military students, transfer students, academic policy, building curriculum, etc. Very excited about being back at UB, very excited about a future partnership that we have coming up with Hartford, which I will talk about a little bit later on. I currently live in Maryland with my husband and my 2.5-year-old daughter, who is driving us a little bit insane during this time. And then we also have a wonderful dog, Izzy, who keeps us on our toes as well.
Well, thanks for that. I think all of us with children and family members of all ages are feeling a little confined right now.
Absolutely.
But it's good. So on that note, can you tell us a little bit about how your life has changed during this era of social distancing?
Well, there have been some very good things change and some pretty bad things. Of course, I miss the daily interaction that I have with my UB community. I miss my staff. I miss being able to walk down to their office and just have a conversation about a student. Right now, we're doing it all by Skype or by Zoom or by phone, and that's just not the same thing. I also really miss being out at the community colleges and our partner institutions, talking to students, helping them get through. There's nothing quite like telling a student that we will admit them regardless of their past history and that we're going to give them a scholarship or something of that nature. So I really miss that one-on-one interaction. But what's wonderful is that I am actually not commuting from Rockville, Maryland to Baltimore every day. So that is a wonderful thing. That's actually giving me more time to do some personal things and spend time with the family, and unfortunately to get more work done. Because I think we're all finding that we are spending more time in front of our computer than we really should be in order to make ourselves balanced in work life at this time.
Sure. So I like what you said about missing the one-on-one interaction with the students. And I think for all of us that are in open opportunity education and serving underserved and non-traditional students, that's a pride and joy for us. Are you seeing any changes in the needs of the students right now? Are you finding that UB is in a position to help students that might not or might be suffering because of the pandemic?
So UB was uniquely situated. We've actually been doing online education for about 20 years now. So the transition from in-person to online was relatively simple for us. Of course, there were always going to be hiccups and issues going on. But we really are looking forward to being able to offer those comprehensive quality online education programs that we're known for. And we've been working really diligently over the last couple of weeks to get a few more actually online as well. We're not sure whether the student population is going to embrace online education more so than they already have in the future. It really depends what happens in the fall with a lot of our institutions. But we are a quality education at a public institution cost. So we really see that we have a role to play in the future of higher ed. In terms of what the students are looking for, they're still looking for those personal touches. My admission counselors and my team are still calling all of our students, and they're just so happy to actually talk to somebody, I guess, other than their family members. We have scholarships and other opportunities available for students that we have made available to students who might be affected by COVID. We're re-looking at every financial aid package and lots of things. We're trying to be as open and accommodating for students who may need us to take a step up and to be there for them and just to show them sympathy and compassion and understanding. And, if a student needs to defer, then we're going to defer them. If a student wants to take a break, then they can take a break. Right now, their health and their family and and their needs are way more important than anything else that we can possibly offer them.
I appreciate that. That's well said, Seth.
Thank you.
Let's shift gears a little bit and just talk about you personally. What are you doing to keep yourself healthy and sane during this period?
Well, we are trying to get out as much as possible in terms of walking around. We live in a community that has a lot of walking trails and lots of park space. So we're making sure that we get out, for an hour or so every day that we can, and just, take a walk and play outside. I have found that I'm spending more time baking, which is great. Baking and cooking has always been a hobby of mine, and I never had a chance to do a lot of it over the last couple of months or years. So I'm trying to make dinner every day, and on the weekends, bake bread with my kid or cookies or something. Unfortunately, that's not helping with any form of a diet, but that's okay. I'm so used to baking and bringing them into the office and not having to eat them. But the other thing that I'm finding myself doing quite a lot more is coloring. One day I was with my daughter and I picked up a crayon, and the next thing I knew, I had colored a picture. So I went and got myself some of those adult coloring books that have, all the different designs and stuff, and a good set of colored pencils. And I'm actually doing more coloring, which has just been interesting when it comes to that using a creative side of my brain that I think hasn't been used in a while. And then my OCD can function through that instead of trying to keep the house clean.
That's interesting. Do you find that type of activity helps kind of soothe you and put you in a better headspace?
I think it does. It allows me to refocus. It allows me to stop thinking about work and some other things. I used to use my commute to do that. My hour and a half every day, each way was my de-stressing time. And of course, I don't have that now because it's not an hour and a half commute from my office to my kitchen. So, yeah, it's definitely helping me de-stress.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point about breaking up your day and compartmentalizing things and giving yourself transition time. It's so easy to bounce from one thing to the next in this remote homework environment, but you need time to transition yourself. So I like that.
Thanks.
So Seth, you mentioned your 20-year career in higher education. As I said before we started recording, my team is the enrollment management team, which is part of the larger student affairs team at Hartford Community College. So do you have any advice for maybe younger or mid-career professionals that are really thinking about making this their career?
Absolutely. The best two pieces of advice I'd like to give. The first one is to make sure that you are networking outside of your current job or current institution. Very rarely do people in enrollment management or student affairs stay at the same institution for their entire career. It actually limits your ability to do a lot of things because you're always going to be in the same environment with the same people, with the same challenges if you stay at the same institution. So if you're looking for longevity in this field, it's really important that you jump around every once in a while to get some new perspectives, try some new populations, and just learn some new things. So networking is the best way to do that. Knowing other people at other institutions, having references that are outside of your personal institution, just connecting and networking. Every job that I have had in my career has been because I know somebody who has said, I think you would be a good addition to my team. Would you consider applying for this job? And I would not be where I am from literally my first job at University of Maryland College Park back in 1990 something was because I knew somebody who got me that or who invited me to apply for that job. I shouldn't say got it for me. The second piece of advice would be to participate in organizations, whether they are locally, regionally, or nationally. It might be ACRO, it might be NACAC, it might be NGAP if you're at the graduate level, it might be NAFSA, it might be NASPA, whatever it is, whatever your area of interest is, get engaged at the local, regional, or national level. And that might be attending a conference if you have the funds to do that. It might be asking to participate on a webinar that's free. It might be just getting their daily newsletter and using it for information purposes. Might be joining a committee, whatever it might be, get involved because that's going to give you not only those connections I talked about, but such the different perspective. And then when something happens at your institution, you're gonna be able to say, well, let me look at my resource and see if they have something, or let me send this out on this listserv and see if we can get an answer. And those are invaluable tools as you're trying to move up and around in the field.
I like that, and I appreciate that. I was thinking, did I have a follow-up question? I was going to ask you why professional associations and networking were so important, but I think you just answered that. So now I'm getting bunny ears, my daughter.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so going back to the pandemic, Seth, what are some things that you think may have changed in the last month or so that might never go back to being quite the same?
Oh, that's a tough question, because I think I'm not quite sure that we have gotten to the point of the pandemic where what is currently the norm is going to be the norm for the longer term. I definitely think, I hope that one of the things that has changed is people's perception of what's important. And I'm thinking largely not just in higher ed. Stopping to smell the roses and spending time with the family and not really focusing on the material things, and taking time for yourself and traveling and doing all those things that suddenly we want to do that we can't do. I think valuing those over certain things will be really important. And I think actually the United States is probably behind in that overall in the world. So hopefully this will change our perceptions. In higher ed, I think the impression of online learning and how we use online learning as a delivery method has completely changed. Institutions that were weary to go in that direction, whether it was an online program or even just to offer courses online, are going to now have the tools to actually go ahead and do that. They're going to see that there are some students who thrive in that arena and that option. I think there's also going to be some institutions that realize that it is a little bit cheaper to offer those types of programs. Not a lot. It's a misconception that online education is cheaper than in-person education. But they're going to do that. They're also going to make a lot of their services available online that they've never had before.
Sure.
The shift to having disability support online, the ability to do online open houses. Harvard's From the Couch series is awesome. It's a great concept for prospective students. Library services that are now online that were never on, tutoring, etc. There's no reason we can't continue to offer those services when we were hesitant to do it in the past.
Yes. At the top of this interview, Seth, you mentioned the partnership between Harvard and UB. And I know you said you wanted to give some more details there, but as a follow-up question, how can we be working together? How can the community colleges in the 4 years be partnering to address some of these changes that have happened over the last several weeks?
Each community college and each four-year institution, whether you're in the state of Maryland or whether you're nationally, has its strengths and weaknesses. Some do things really well, some have never tried to explore an area, and some have tried and failed in doing it. We need to be communicating better about how we did things successfully and how we failed at things. If institution A does this really well, institution B should have the opportunity to ask them how they did it, or what resources or what tools they used, what lessons they've learned. And if institution B or institution C can't deliver that, then how can they work with institution A to have that service delivered to their students as an opportunity? We are one group of people that has been working jointly, but not really. And we really need to break down those silos and break down those walls and just start working together so that we all ensure student success, regardless of where they start, regardless if they transfer, regardless of where they finish, regardless of what type of institution we are or where our allegiance is or what our mission is. We all should be working together to make sure that the student experience is the best one. And I think in Maryland specifically, we have a lot of that starting. There's a lot of groups that are meeting to talk about this kind of stuff and opportunities. And you know what, we'll do this for you now if you can help us do this in the later. And I think it's one of the great things about Maryland higher ed and the structure that we have, which a lot of states do not have, is that we're already starting to do that. But there's a lot of room to expand that.
That statement is very profound to me, because what I heard in there is taking the idea of holistic student support and wraparound services from the institution level and taking it to a much more macro level. We, as a community of higher education, need to be prepared to support our students holistically and across these artificial borders that we put in place.
Yeah, a student who might be transferring, for example, from Hartford to University of Baltimore doesn't just one day become a UB student. I mean, they do if in the fact that they suddenly enroll and are starting to take classes at UB, but their application process, their admit process, their transitional process, the transfer shock that happens afterwards, all of that can be addressed, and the student can find comfort and information if both Hartford and University of Baltimore, in that example, work together through the entire process. We both have a stake. We both have an investment in that student, and we all both want to make them succeed. So why just suddenly switch the student from one institution to the other? Let's work together through the experience to make it a good one.
Yeah. Well said, Seth. Thank you. Let's keep it a little lighthearted. I like asking this question. I've been asking it to everyone I've talked with. If you could have one superpower at work, what would you have and why?
I would love to be able to predict the future.
Ooh.
It would be so much easier for enrollment planning if I could predict the future, but unfortunately I can't. So that's the big one. However, I would also really like to be invisible, or the ability to be invisible, because there certainly are some meetings that I'd like to be sitting in on that I'm not. That would make my life a lot easier. And I think if people think about that, they're all going to identify a meeting or two that they wish they could just sit in and listen to, or be a fly on the wall in.
Yeah.
And be a part of.
Those are good ones. Mine has been, I wish that food at work was calorie free. You always have the one. But go ahead.
I've heard if you break a cookie in half, the calories fall out.
Yeah, there you go. And I was going to say, you mentioned baking and cooking at home as one of your hobbies. I think it's scientific that quarantine food is calorie free.
That is fantastic. There is the quarantine 15 that's already been confirmed.
I like it. So we're kind of wrapping up to the end of the interview, Seth, and you've shared a lot of insights with us. Is there anything else you want to share with us, or anything you want to plug that you haven't talked about yet?
So I really want to push the University of Baltimore's new scholarship program, the Bob Parson Scholarship Fund. Mm-hmm. This was a multi-year, multi-million-dollar opportunity that we were provided by Bob Parsons, who was a UB alum, a philanthropist, and an entrepreneur. He has already endowed our Veterans Center and our Veterans Advocacy Clinic in our law school, but he's given us money to allow us to provide a completely free bachelor's education for transfer students, students who already have an associate's degree, or military students who have 60 plus credits, either from academic or prior learning, who are Pell eligible, who are going to enroll at the University of Baltimore full time, who are first degree seeking, and there's a couple of other caveats in there. We will provide the funding to match or to make up the difference between the Pell Grant Award and our tuition, so that your college career, your bachelor's degree, once you transfer to the University of Baltimore, is free of tuition and fees. And those fees will also include online or lab fees. So those are included. What's not included are textbooks or commuting or housing or any of that kind of stuff. And this is a scholarship that we'll be giving out for the next couple of years to students. There's no application for it. All you need to do is apply to the University of Baltimore, be admitted, and meet the qualifications. And once you enroll and once you start classes, that money will show up on your account. So we're really, really excited about that as an opportunity. There's nothing like this in the state of Maryland for bachelor completers at the associates at the bachelor's level. So we're really, really excited about it. We think it's going to give a lot of students the opportunity to complete their bachelor's who might not have had the opportunity. Now, so even more so with COVID, because a lot of students who are unemployed or who have the opportunity to go back full time can take advantage of this.
Yeah, that's an amazing opportunity, and I agree with you. I know that you've been really good about communicating this scholarship out. We've received your emails, and we've shared that. But if we have staff who want to learn more, where should they go?
We have a website designed that's perfect for any questions you might have. That's www.ubalt.edu/Parsons. And if you even go to the University of Baltimore main page, it's usually on the front page.
Sure. And I'll definitely put a link to that when we post the video for the staff
Appreciate
as
that.
well. Well, Seth, thank you very much for taking some time out of your busy day to network with us and let us know what's going on at UB and a little bit about yourself. We definitely appreciate it. I know that many of the staff at HCC at Hartford Community College have worked with you and know you, so hopefully people appreciate getting to see your face and have this conversation. So this probably won't be the last time we talk, but thank you very much for your generosity to do this interview.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.